Shabbat Shalom and welcome to the very first Torah portion of the year. It seems appropriate to be starting over the reading of the Torah at this incredible moment in time when all of the living hostages, thank God, have returned home and when the remainder of those who must return to be buried are actively being sought by a peacekeeping force. We can begin to taste the sweetness of the Kiddush wine, something that seemed impossible just weeks ago. Every single week, we present a Kiddush cup to one or several children on our bima as they become bar bat mitzvah. Like any good ritual, that moment has meaning across time and space. It connects all the students receiving a Kiddush cup in this generation to one another. It connects those children to parents who also received one here or at another synagogue. And it connects those children to the future in which someday their own children will, God willing, receive a Kiddush cup at their bar and bat mitzvah. It connects this moment to other moments of sweetness where that Kiddush cup will be used, like Shabbat or Rosh Hashanah or Passover. And it connects that life cycle event to other life cycle events, like when we use that very same Kiddush cup under the chuppah at a Jewish wedding. It is appropriate for the soul of Jewish tradition that we grant these students something that will be used to celebrate sweetness and joy. But the Shabbat Kiddush is not just about joy and celebration of the sweet wine. Think about these words we say, Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, as we link the wine itself to the remembrance of the work of creation. The Friday evening Kiddush links that cup of wine to exactly the meaning of why Shabbat is so special. Now, we've just come through the Yamim Noraim, the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and we tend to think of these as the most important days of the Jewish year in the Jewish calendar. On the one hand, the things that happen only once in the calendar seem extremely important because they're unique in the year. And there is truth to the fact that uniqueness is the core of holiness. Shabbat, which happens every week, seems like, well, something we could ignore. We'll just observe it next week, right? Well, no. Shabbat, too, is holy. And it is holy because each of the other 6 days of the week are what's called chol, mundane. But Shabbat alone is special in the week. And it is holy because every single week we remind ourselves of our story, how it all happened, and why. At Temple Judea, we are embarking upon a year honoring the significance of telling our story. We're meant to remember and consider and honor every single week the fundamental core truths of the universe, how it was created, why it was created, and to tell this story again and again so we never forget our purpose in it and who we are. We are a people that understands that our job in the world is to make order out of chaos. The world begins in our story with tohu vavohu, which in some translations amounts to unformed and void. We tend to focus on the void part, the idea that God creates something out of nothing. But tohu vavohu doesn't really mean nothingness. It's actually a great ball of swirling something. There's infinite potential in that something, but it is impossible to discern or initiate because it is constantly shifting and undulating, just like the words themselves. Tohu vavohu, tohu vavohu, tohu vavohu. God creates the world by separating one thing from another and setting up an order to the universe, and that is what we are meant to do. But how? Well, the profound and central way Jews have created order is through mental order, intellectual clarity. The world around us is not full of clarity, but it is our job to pull the threads from one another and to try to make sense of it all. We do this with reason, logic, arguments fleshed out in elegant and eloquent ways. It's not that the arguments erase disagreements, it's that the arguments provide clarity whereby people can assert what they believe, not based on how they feel, but what they actually think. So once again, I'm going to make this plea. Whatever you feel when you hear words from our bima, Let that be instruction to you to formulate your arguments and to begin to converse. None of us has a monopoly on truth or wisdom. It takes all of us to talk to one another to sort out this world in which we live. So on this Shabbat of Breshit, I ask that we rededicate ourselves to making order out of chaos, to staying in the conversation. That's the Jewish way. Shabbat Shalom.